Will a kidnapped royal prove to be enough to get the wayward Geoforce back in the superhero fold? Well, let's hop into the pages of Young Justice Targets issue number 2 and find out together, shall we? So then, as we rejoin the book, the media has already picked up on the story of Queen Perdita's kidnapping. The heroes, including the Harpers of Bowhunter Security, are licking their wounds. A bunch of them got beaten up, and even more of them are now in comas. They're not gonna die or anything. Artemis points out that this is a very particular poison compound used by her father, Sportsmaster, and they should come to in a few days with antidote. The good guys all jump to the conclusion that this must once again be the work of Perdita's evil uncle and supervillain, Count Vertigo. After all, he gets broken out of jail and then Perdita gets kidnapped around the same time. It only makes sense, right? What makes much less sense is all the unanswered questions. Why would Count Vertigo, who in the past has always gone out of his way to try and kill Perdita, only kidnap her this time? It's not like he could be made king or anything. He got kicked out of the line of succession a long time ago. Then, of course, there's the mystery of Green Arrow and Black Canary, who were at Star Labs in civilian clothes, implying that they didn't actually tell the rest of the League or the superhero community what they were doing. We actually get an answer to this question in the backup story flashback. Oliver Queen, we discover, has actually known Perdita since she was a little girl, and he actually saved her once many years ago from another attempt on her life staged by her uncle. In fact, hey, if this whole flashback story seems familiar to you, it absolutely should, because basically it's an in-continuity retelling of the DC digital short that Greg Weisman did, focusing on Green Arrow. Now, an international caper like this with so many moving parts means that the heroes of the Justice League are forced to eventually loop on in King Brion of Markovia. After all, Vertigo and his goons seemingly escaped from one of their prisons. Geoforce does a fair amount of macho posturing amongst his old superhero teammates, saying that if anyone is going to get the Queen back, it's going to be him and his Infinitors team. Naturally, Garfield Logan the Beast Boy isn't having any of this. Perdita was his former girlfriend, and because of that, he's going to move heaven and earth to get her back, even if that means going up against Brion. The two young men actually having a boatload of unfinished business and bad blood from their time together on The Outsiders. It's also decided, too, in an attempt to stave off an international incident, Nightwing will actually lead a stealth team behind enemy lines in Markovia to see what they can find. Meanwhile, it's actually the Infinitors who seemingly find a lead first. They think they know where Perdita was taken, and as such, they're ready to move on out and deal with the threat. Now, if that seems way too convenient for you that Brion and his people end up finding a lead that the other superheroes couldn't, well, you're actually super right. Let us not forget that the Markovian ambassador is still a light-affiliated villain who in the comics went by the moniker Bad Samaritan. His deal is that he is able to speak words of suggestion into the ear of Brion, and they've basically been manipulating him this whole time. Well, okay, what's interesting about it is they've been manipulating him up until a point. He's still totally headstrong and stubborn as all hell, while still on some level desperately wanting to try and fix his country. So, the bad guys only have to manipulate him up till a certain point where, he basically manipulates himself. Brion and the Infinitors manage to track Count Vertigo to a series of cabins somewhere in the countryside. The shape-changer known as Everyman tries to scout the area by turning into a raccoon. Unfortunately, here's the thing, Markovia doesn't have North American raccoons. This, of course, all ends up exploding into a massive battle between Vertigo, his loyalists, and those mysterious robots that we saw in the previous issue. Here's the thing, though, Brion and his team of Infinitors actually start kicking robot ass. They're doing way better than Bowhunter Security and the heroes from the last issue were doing. They even managed to find Perdita. Brion decides to leave the battlefield again, the words of Bad Samaritan ringing in his head, and if this feels all way too easy, it's because it totally is. If you didn't already put it together, Count Vertigo, the robots, and Bad Samaritan are all working together. What are they after? What do they want? And what does it have to do with King Brion? Well, we don't know as the comic comes to a close, but it could be anything. And so that was Young Justice Targets issue number 2, everybody, and once again, I continue to like what this series is doing. This news story organically builds on a lot of different stuff we saw in season 4 of Young Justice, like Beast Boy fighting to try and get back in the field and make things right between himself and Perdita, to even Brion himself unwittingly being a puppet of the light. The flashback backup stories are also pretty solid too. I like to see them build the world, give the spotlight to some characters who might not be getting it in the show, and in this case actually can canonizing a great short from Wiseman. Hell, speaking of Wiseman love letters and shoutouts, if you pay close attention, you'll see the actual gargoyles from the Gargoyles show here. That's a running gag in the show, but it's really pronounced here in the comic. Man, it's a real shame the Gargoyles IP is collecting dust in the Disney vault, cause man, I bet Wiseman could write one hell of a Gargoyles Young Justice comic crossover. Overall, I'd give this another 8 out of 10. It's gonna please a lot of the show fans, and the art really pops too, meaning that I think comic fans are gonna like it just as much.
Hey there everyone, Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.